At my dad's funeral, my drunk husband hit me and abandoned me and my son at the cemetery. But what God did to him will leave you speechless. And what kind of God allows a daughter to bury her father and be beaten by her husband at the same grave? Anna Marie cried out, her voice broken as mud covered her shoes and rain washed the flowers off the freshly sealed casket. She was 33, neither too young nor too old. It was that age where wounds hurt the most because hope isn't enough to numb them and experience hasn't yet healed them. Her face, of serene beauty and skin hardened by years of silent struggle, contorted with every sob. She clung to the arm of little Samuel, her 6-year-old son, who didn't understand why his mother was trembling as if the world was falling apart. The earth was still open. The voices of relatives were just murmurs amid the sound of the rain. Nobody knew what to say. Nobody wanted to look her in the eye. They all feigned normalcy, as if a funeral were just an emotional formality and not an intimate shipwreck. Until the scandal erupted like a dry lightning bolt in the storm. Look at them, here they are crying as if they were saints, crying for that old man who didn't even love them, bellowed Leonardo, staggering between the tombstones, soaked and with his shirt untucked. His eyes were cloudy, his wet hair plastered to his face, and a half-empty liquor bottle in his hand. Anna saw him appear and felt a chill that had nothing to do with the cold. The air went still. Some relatives looked at each other. Nobody moved. Nobody interfered. Nobody dared. Leonardo, Anna whispered with eyes wide in horror. Not today, please. But he was already upon her. The bottle fell to the ground. He grabbed her arm with a force that left her skin bruised. Playing the widow now, are you? Think that because that old man died you're better than me? You think you're superior, but you're nothing without me. Let go of me. You're drunk. Not in front of Samuel. Please, it's always Samuel. Samuel this, Samuel that, as if I didn't exist. And he yelled, and without warning, his hand crossed her face with a dry, brutal slap that echoed even among the cypress trees. The blow was so sudden that the silence became unbearable. Anna fell into the mud with her cheek red, her lips trembling, and the child paralyzed beside her, unable to process the violence. You're a sick bastard, an aunt finally shouted, breaking the silence. Get out of here, Leonardo. Go before we call the police, another one yelled. But Leonardo spat on the ground, turned around, and walked away among the gravestones, without looking back, leaving her and the child abandoned, as if they were an old backpack he no longer wanted to carry. The rain intensified. The flowers on the casket began to fall apart. And Anna, lying on the ground, felt that the mud wasn't just covering her body, it was swallowing her soul. Samuel touched her with his trembling little hand. Mommy, Daddy left. Anna wiped the blood from her lip, got up with difficulty, and nodded without being able to speak. She took her son's hand and began to walk among the graves. Slowly, soaked, shattered. Nobody followed her. Nobody offered to drive her home. Nobody said anything. The scene seemed ripped from a bad dream. A beaten woman dragging her son through the mud of a cemetery while the mourners returned to their homes in silence, with expensive umbrellas and dry jackets. The town's church bell rang in the distance, as if mocking her misery. The house where they lived was almost 2 miles away. They had no money for a taxi. There was no public transport at that hour either. Samuel was shivering. Anna was bleeding inside, and the world simply kept turning. When they reached the dirt road where they rented a small house, the sky was still gray. Anna tried to open the door and noticed that someone had kicked in the lock. They entered. The inside was a mess. A broken ashtray on the floor, bottles everywhere, the sofa stained with vomit. The same scene as always, repeated once more, but now with a fresh grave behind it. Anna stood in the middle of the chaos, not knowing where to start. Samuel sat in a corner hugging his legs. Mommy, why did Daddy hit you? Was it because of Grandpa? She didn't know what to say. She was afraid to tell the truth, but even more afraid to keep lying. She took a deep breath, approached her son, took him in her arms, and held him close. Because he's sick, my love. Because there are people who, when they don't know how to love, cause harm. And is he going to get better? I don't know, Samuel. Sometimes the diseases of the soul have no medicine. Samuel fell silent. Anna felt the child fall asleep on her chest while she continued to cry in silence. Not for the blow, not for Leonardo. She cried for her father, for not having been able to say a proper goodbye, for having to feign strength when all she wanted was to disappear. During the night, nobody called her. Nobody asked if she was okay. Nobody from the funeral wrote to her. In town, the scandal was already a store commentary, and in those places, gossip lasts longer than compassion. In the morning, her Aunt Teresa knocked on the door. I came to see how you are, she said, looking from side to side as if she were committing a crime. How did I look to you yesterday? Broken, Anna replied without trying to hide it. And look, I don't want to get involved, but you could avoid making a scene. People are talking, saying you provoked him, that you screamed first, that you're looking for attention. Anna looked at her as if she had just spat on her soul. Attention? My dad died. My husband hit me. He abandoned me at the cemetery with my son. And you think this is a theater play? Teresa lowered her gaze. It's just complicated, honey. The women in town are saying Leonardo was always a good boy, that he got lost because of stress, that you're tarnishing his name. Anna closed the door. She didn't yell, she didn't insult. She just felt that an invisible wall was rising between her and the rest of the world. There was no family, no allies. She was alone, completely alone. She took a notebook and wrote on a page. Things I must do. 1. Get a job. 2. Buy milk for Samuel. 3. Find a lawyer. 4. Survive. During the next hours, she cleaned the house in silence. She threw away the bottles, washed the stains, tidied the clothes as if cleaning outside could clean inside. In the afternoon, she went to the neighborhood store to ask for credit. The owner, a fat man with yellow teeth, looked her up and down. I'm not lending credit for now, Anna. Your husband has owed me since February. And what happened yesterday, well, I don't want to get involved. Anna left with empty hands. When she returned, Samuel was hungry. Only half a bag of rice was left. Mommy, aren't we going to have dinner? Aren't we going to play we're astronauts and we can't eat until we reach the planet? She said, trying to make him smile. Samuel nodded with a weak smile. Anna gave him water with sugar and put him to bed early. That night, she sat in front of her father's portrait, the only man who loved her unconditionally. The only one who didn't judge her for marrying Leonardo. The only one who warned her, but without imposing anything. Forgive me, Dad. I wasn't the daughter you deserved. I couldn't take care of you. I couldn't even prevent them from dragging me into the mud in front of your grave. Forgive me for not having fled sooner, for not knowing how to get out. The tears fell without pause. And then, like a sentence, like a dagger, like a truth that could no longer be hidden, Anna said it to herself. That day I didn't just lose my father, I lost the little faith I had left in love, in people, and almost in God. And the silence was so profound that not even the rain could cover it. Anna remained there, motionless, as if time had ceased to exist in that small house made of tired bricks and worm-eaten wood. Her father's portrait was still in front of her, barely illuminated by a candle. Samuel slept with his mouth slightly open, breathing with a faint whistle in his chest. Outside, the storm subsided, but the real downpour was falling inside. Dawn brought with it the metallic sound of hunger. Samuel got up looking for something to eat. He opened the cabinets and came across empty shelves, rusty cans without labels, and a bag of rice with only 3 spoonfuls. Anna watched him from the doorway. Her eyes were sunken, her cheeks marked by lack of sleep. She took the little bag and held it in her hands as if she were carrying gold. I'm going to get some food, she said with a firm voice. Samuel didn't answer. He had already learned that when his mother spoke like that, she was lying to herself to keep from breaking down. Anna left the house with an old backpack and a scarf that still smelled of her father. She walked to the high part of town, where the houses were large, with electric gates and gardens cared for by men in uniform. She knocked on doors one by one with the same question. Do you need someone to clean? At first, she only got rejections disguised as smiles. We already have someone to help us, we're sorry. Not at the moment. Others simply didn't open. And there was one lady who did listen to her, but demanded she show her hands. Your nails are too long. Are you not one of those who steal while they clean? Anna showed them in silence. Short, chapped, stained with old soap. All right, the woman said. But if you so much as touch something that isn't yours, I'll chase you out with a broom. She spent 6 hours cleaning a house that smelled of expensive perfume and hypocrisy. She polished floors she would never walk on. She washed porcelain dishes she would never eat from. She cleaned a bathroom with so many products that she felt the chemical fumes were burning her lungs. The lady paid her $50 in crumpled bills, not even enough for a decent meal. Come back tomorrow, but with an apron. I don't like my husband seeing other women in that kind of clothing. Anna nodded, put the money away, and went down to the market. She bought a package of instant soup, stale bread, and a lemon. With that, she fed Samuel that night. The boy didn't complain, he just asked, Are we astronauts again today? She stroked his hair without saying anything. Over the next few days, Anna took jobs where she was humiliated mercilessly. They asked her to clean stains that were already ingrained, to sweep leaves for hours under the sun, to carry garbage bags bigger than her. One lady even forced her to clean her dog's cage with an old toothbrush. The more she worked, the more Samuel coughed. First it was light, then dry. After, it was deep with a fever. Anna would prepare him infusions with leaves from the yard and put cold compresses on his forehead. She held him tight, as if contact could cure him. When he couldn't breathe well at night, she took him to the public hospital. The waiting room was full of screams, crying children, and adults fighting for attention. Anna carried Samuel in her arms for 2 hours until a nurse called them. "He has a chest infection," the doctor said. A young man who looked more tired than she was. "He needs x-rays, blood tests, and possibly injectable antibiotics." "And how much does it cost?" The doctor looked at her in silence. "If you don't have insurance, it's at least $500. Anna went blank. Her bank account had exactly $47. "Isn't there a way to do it for free? My son is very sick. You can put your name on a list, but there are a lot of people ahead of you." They left without tests, without a prescription, without hope. Samuel walked slowly with dry lips and a listless gaze. Upon returning home, Anna decided to swallow her pride. She went to her mother-in-law's house, Mary Ann. She knocked on the door 3 times. The woman with a scowl and a cigarette hanging from her lips opened. "Look who it is." "I need help," Anna said directly. "Samuel is sick. I have no money. I can't get him to get tests." "He's your grandson." The woman laughed. A bitter, short laugh. "Now you remember me. When you were with my son, you didn't want to know me. You thought you were too good. Look how you ended up, crying at my door." "I'm not crying," Anna said, although her voice was trembling. "I'm just asking for the bare minimum." Mary Ann looked her up and down. "The bare minimum is not to provoke a man. What happened at the funeral was your fault. I'm sure you said something that made him snap." Anna didn't respond. She swallowed her rage. "You know it. He was always a good, hard-working son. You drove him crazy. Like all of you who play the victim when you're actually manipulators. Can you help me or not?" "No. And don't come back. You're not welcome here. And if you want to keep talking bad about Leonardo, you'd better bite your tongue, because in this town, what do you pay for?" She literally slammed the door in her face. Anna walked home feeling dirtier than ever, not because of the filth, but because of the words that had been spat in her face. It was no longer just the pain, it was absolute loneliness. Upon arriving, she found a note stuck to the door. "If you don't pay the rent tomorrow, I'll be forced to take action. Elias, the landlord." A bald, 50-something man with a lecherous gaze. Anna took a deep breath, went to his apartment that very night. She knocked. He opened with a smile that was too wide. "I thought you had forgotten to pay me. I don't have all of it, but I can give you something this week. I just need time." He looked at her as one evaluates merchandise. "We can work something else out." Anna took a step back. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Of course you do. You're pretty, you're alone. I have needs and so do you. You can stay here without paying a dime if you're smart." She felt nauseous. "You're disgusting. Don't play the saint. Or do you think you're better than the others? I know things. I know Leonardo used to hit you. Maybe that's why, because you don't know how to treat a man." Anna raised her hand. She was going to hit him, but she held back. She turned around and ran away. Elias yelled from the doorway. "I'm going to evict you. You'll see. Nobody will want you with that sick kid." That night she didn't sleep. Samuel was breathing with difficulty. Anna didn't know whether to run to the hospital to steal medicine, to cry, or to scream. At dawn, she went to the church. Father Thomas received her in silence. He was an older man with a calm voice and sincere eyes. "Father, do you have anything you can give me? Food, medicine, whatever." He handed her a bag with bread, rice, and a few cans. "It's all I have," he said with regret. "The parish is going through a difficult time, but if you need to talk, I'm here." "I don't want to talk, I want to save my son." "Go then pray, Anna. Sometimes prayer is stronger than any medicine." I've prayed, I've screamed and God didn't answer me. Maybe he is, but not in the way you expect." She returned home, made rice with water, and gave it to Samuel. The boy ate barely 2 spoonfuls. "Mommy, it hurts here," he said, pointing to his chest. "It's going to be okay, my love. It's going to be okay." At night, Samuel convulsed. His eyes rolled back, his body arched. Anna screamed like she had never screamed before. Samuel, look at me. Breathe." She had no phone, no money, no neighbors she could trust. She opened the door and ran barefoot down the street. "Help, please. Someone. My son is dying." Nobody answered. The lights were off. The town was asleep. Anna knocked on doors. She cried, she begged, she howled like a mother at war with life. A woman opened her window. "It's late. Go to the hospital. I have no way to get there. Please lend me your phone." The woman closed it. Anna fell to her knees alone in the dust, with death brushing her skin, until a car screeched to a halt. It was Mr. Rubin, the owner of a hardware store. He was leaving his night shift. "What happened?" "My son is dying." He didn't ask more. He put her in the car and sped off. And Anna, with Samuel passed out in her arms, could only repeat one word over and over again. "Don't die, don't die, don't die." The world, for the second time, broke again, and she was alone again in the middle of the chaos with a son hanging by a thread and a faith reduced to ashes. The gurney squeaked as two nurses wheeled Samuel down the hospital corridors. Anna ran behind without shoes, her feet full of dirt and dried blood. Her hair was stuck to her face like wet spiderwebs. She hadn't even had time to button her blouse. She could only think of one thing: that he wouldn't die. The doctors closed the emergency room door. Anna was left outside in a white, icy hallway, full of other people's tears and muffled screams. The early morning was long and cruel. She sat in one of the plastic chairs in the waiting room, hugging her knees. Her heart was beating as if it wanted to escape her chest. She didn't know how much time had passed. 10 minutes, maybe an hour. Clocks didn't matter when your son's life depended on someone else. She was alone again, the same echo of her own despair repeating over and over again. That's when she noticed him. An elderly man in a dark gray suit, polished shoes, and a fine wool scarf sat next to her. He hadn't entered through the main door. She hadn't seen him approach. He was just there as if he had been waiting for her forever. "Is that your son in there?" The voice was deep but calm. Anna nodded without looking at him. "What does he have?" "Severe pneumonia, convulsions." "He's very sick," she whispered, more to herself than to him. The man didn't respond immediately. He took a handkerchief from his coat, cleaned his hands as if the place disgusted him, and spoke again. "I can help you. I can pay for the full treatment right now, but there's a condition." Anna turned her face slowly, as if something inside her warned her that this offer had poison in it. The man looked at her with a calmness that unsettled her. His eyes were not kind or cruel. They were cold, empty, as if he were used to offering things others couldn't refuse. "Who are you?" "My name is Stephen Vance. I was your husband's business partner." Anna froze. The blood drained from her stomach. She didn't know that name. She didn't remember Leonardo talking about him, and the word partner didn't sit well with her. "Partner in what?" "Before I answer that, I need you to promise me something," Stephen said, crossing one leg over the other. "Don't interrupt me. Don't question me, just listen. Afterwards, you can decide whether to accept my help or not, but if you cut me off, I'll leave. And you'll be left with your sick son without resources, alone again. Do you understand?" Anna felt a pang in her stomach. It was the kind of deal that only the desperate accept. And she was on the edge of the abyss. She nodded. "Speak." Stephen looked down the hallway. Nobody else was watching them. Everything was covered by that dense cloak that early mornings have in hospitals, where souls seem to float between life and death. "Leonardo didn't disappear out of shame or fear of your claims. He didn't abandon you because he felt guilty or hurt. He left because he was up to his neck in something much darker than you can imagine. And I was a witness to that." Anna said nothing, but a cold sweat ran down her back. "He had accounts abroad, hidden money, illegal investments. He used your name on forged documents, fake invoices. He laundered a lot of money for people who don't accept mistakes." "That can't be true," Anna murmured, breaking her promise not to interrupt. "I told you to listen," Stephen said without raising his voice. She swallowed the words. "I was in meetings where he handed envelopes with money to public officials. He even participated in the forced eviction of poor families in areas that he later resold. He did things you can't even imagine, things that would turn your stomach. And you? What did you do?" "I'm no saint, but I never touched an innocent person, just business. Your husband enjoyed doing harm. There was something in his gaze, something rotten. And why do you come now to save my son?" "To save me?" Stephen leaned toward her. "Because you didn't know. Because you were used. Because he made you his shield, his facade. And because I have a debt to someone who is no longer here." Anna felt that the air weighed more than ever. "What debt?" Stephen didn't answer. He got up and walked to the reception desk. He had finished talking. Minutes later, a doctor approached. His face was more relaxed. "He's stable. We gave him intravenous medication. We're going to move him to observation, but he's out of danger for now." Anna didn't understand anything. How? Someone covered everything. Paid in advance. That night Anna slept in a plastic chair next to Samuel, who was breathing with difficulty, but without a fever. She watched the 4 drip with half-closed eyes. She stroked his forehead. She kissed him carefully. I swear I'm going to get you out of this. I swear it on my father. 2 days later, Samuel was still improving. He could already sit up in bed, drink water, and answer questions. Anna took care of him like a soldier cares for his wounded comrade in the field. She didn't leave his side for a second. Stephen appeared one morning with a coffee in his hand. I have a job for you. Anna looked at him. She didn't know whether to thank him, fear him, or insult him. What kind of job? Taking care of me, cooking, cleaning my house. You're alone. You have no income. I need someone I can trust. I'll pay you well. You don't have to answer now. Anna had no choice. I accept. The doctors discharged Samuel. A week later, they prescribed a long list of medications, nebulizers, and checkups. Stephen picked them up in his car, a black sedan with a leather interior. Samuel was asleep in the back seat. Anna just looked out the window as if she were afraid to breathe. Stephen's house was large, silent, full of books and paintings with faces that didn't smile. There was a room for her and one for Samuel, a small kitchen, a private bathroom, and a door with an internal lock. You have total privacy, Stephen told her. I'm not like other men. I'm not interested in your body. I'm interested in your loyalty. And what do you gain from this? Redemption, he replied without emotion. The days passed slowly. Anna took care of cleaning, doing the shopping, accompanying him to some medical appointments. She discovered that Stephen suffered from a heart condition and had frequent insomnia attacks. At night they talked. Why didn't you report Leonardo? Because I would have gone down too. And because justice sometimes doesn't work for the powerful. But now I'm dying. And before I go, I want someone to know the truth. And why me? Because you lived with the monster, and because if you ever decide to speak, you could destroy him. You have the power, even if you don't believe it. Anna listened without knowing whether to trust him, but something told her that behind that calmness was a guilt that was devouring him alive. One night, Stephen showed her a folder with documents, contracts, bank accounts, properties in Leonardo's name and in hers. See this? This house is in your name, but you never knew about it, did you? It's in the city. It's worth more than $500,000. Why would he do something like that? Because if he were investigated, you would be the culprit. You would go to prison. Anna felt dizzy. It was as if the ground were opening up beneath her feet. So all this time I was his scapegoat? Exactly. Anna cried in silence that night. She felt dirty, used, trapped in a web she didn't know how to get out of. Samuel slept peacefully. Stephen had given him adventure books, puzzles, even a bicycle. Anna didn't know whether to accept his generosity or fear it. Don't look at me like that, he told her one morning while they were having coffee. I'm not your enemy. The enemy you already had at home. I just want you to understand the dimension of everything, to prepare for what's to come. And what's to come? Stephen looked at her with a gravity that admitted no doubts. Leonardo didn't disappear. He's hiding, but not because they're looking for him, but because he fled like a coward. What are you talking about? He's in another city with a new identity. He faked his death to get out of a debt with dangerous people, and when they find him, he won't be able to hide even underground. Anna felt a coldness that ran through her chest. What does that have to do with me? Everything, because you still have his last name, because your signature is on documents that the police haven't seen, but that could come to light. And when that happens, you'll be dragged down unless you make a decision. What decision? Join me, finish what he started, and turn him in, because sooner or later someone will. And it's better that it's you than someone who also wants to see you fall. Anna didn't answer. She got up, went to Samuel's room, hugged him tightly, and that night, as she watched him sleep, she thought for the first time in years about revenge, about justice, about the possibility of surviving without dragging someone else's chains. And in the bottom of her chest, where there had only been ashes, something began to ignite very slowly, but with strength like an ember that refuses to go out, because maybe, just maybe, there was still something to fight for. And the name of that fight was Samuel. Anna woke up gasping. Her nightgown was soaked with sweat. She had dreamed of mud again. She was trapped in a mass grave, and Leonardo was throwing dirt on her with a diabolical smile. She screamed, but no one heard her. Samuel cried in the distance, as if he were on the other side of an invisible wall. And when she managed to get out, everything was fire. The sky burned, the ground burned, and her skin melted in silence. She always woke up the same way, scared, not knowing if she was still alive. Stephen watched her from the kitchen. He was making coffee, on his face an expression that revealed nothing, as if he was already used to seeing her break down every night. "Your body speaks for you," he said while pouring a cup. "It's warning you that the fire is getting closer." Anna sat in front of him in her robe, her face swollen from the nightmares. Samuel was still asleep in the next room. The house was silent, but there was something in the air, something that squeezed her chest, as if the day came loaded with a truth that didn't want to be spoken. "What do you know that I don't?" Stephen dropped a manila envelope on the table. It was sealed with a red ribbon. Anna looked at it as if it were dynamite. "Here is the story he didn't tell you," Stephen said in a low voice. "The complete version. Not just properties, not just money, everything." Anna opened it with trembling hands. Inside were photocopies, notarial records, copies of deeds, bank statements, financial extracts, and printed emails, documents that had her name, her signature, her social security number, properties in her name she had never seen, accounts opened in international banks, a mortgage loan she never applied for, a loan with a phantom financial company for an unpayable sum. This can't be real," she murmured, her mouth dry. "It is, and you signed it even if you don't remember." Anna felt a pang in her chest. She remembered the papers Leonardo would make her sign without explanation. "They're from the bank, honey. Don't worry," he would say while she was cooking or taking care of Samuel. She, in love, silly, trusting, would sign. She always signed. She never asked. "So, I'm involved in the eyes of the law." "Yes. Legally, you are part of a money laundering and tax fraud network. And if the authorities find this before you speak, you will go to prison." Without a defense. Anna felt like she was suffocating. The walls began to close in. She had to stand up. She walked to the bathroom and dry-heaved. Her body hunched over the toilet. She was sweating, her legs were shaking, she couldn't breathe. Stephen didn't follow her. He knew that was also part of the process. When she came out, Anna's eyes were red. She looked at the envelope, as if she could set it on fire with her mind. "And what do you want me to do? What am I supposed to do now?" "Collaborate," Stephen replied calmly. "Testify, become a witness, talk to the Financial Crimes Unit, but you need a lawyer and discretion because if this gets out, you're dead." Anna closed her eyes. She thought about Samuel. She thought about the nights without food, about the days when she sold copper rings to buy soup, about the times she slept on the floor because Leonardo had destroyed the bed. And now, in addition, she could end up in a cell. They had taken everything from her, they had dragged her to hell, and she hadn't even noticed. "How much time do I have?" "Not much, because things are already moving." That night Samuel had a fever. It wasn't serious, but it was enough to make Anna panic. She sat beside him, stroked him, and he asked her in a soft voice, "Mommy, is Daddy dead?" Anna looked at him with a shattered soul. "No, my love, he's not dead." "Then why doesn't he call?" "Because he's far away. Very far away, and he doesn't know how to come back." Samuel accepted it without more. He went back to sleep. Anna, on the other hand, felt her heart break in two. She didn't know if she was protecting him or deceiving him, if silence was a form of love or cowardice. 2 days passed. Stephen contacted a lawyer. Her name was Marina Godoy. She had a young face but spoke with the firmness of someone who had faced monsters. She was direct from the beginning. "You have 2 paths. Wait for justice to knock on your door or get ahead of it. Collaborate. Turn over everything you know. With luck, they'll give you immunity, but you need proof and you need to talk now." Anna swallowed. "And if they deny me protection? Then you'll have to carry the burden of everything he did because you signed it and papers don't cry, they don't feel, they just incriminate you." They signed a voluntary declaration. Marina contacted a trusted prosecutor, but everything had to be done with discretion. If Leonardo found out that Anna had betrayed him, he could sink her from wherever he was. One morning, Anna woke up with a start. Stephen was in the living room, watching the soundless television. On the screen, a news report. A man captured in another state under a false identity, a suspect of fraud, evasion, and possession of forged documents. The image was clear. Although his hair was longer and he had a beard, it was him. Leonardo. Anna felt a hollowness in her stomach. "They caught him." Stephen nodded. 3 hours ago. He's in a maximum security prison. They found him through an intercepted call. Apparently he was trying to cross the border with fake documents. Anna sat down. She didn't know whether to laugh, cry, scream, or stay silent. She wanted to run, to hide, to disappear. "That's not all," Stephen added in a more serious tone. "What else?" During his medical exams upon admission, they found a tumor in his pancreas. Advanced, inoperable. Anna put her hand to her mouth. "Cancer." Terminal. The silence became heavy, dense, full of unanswered questions. Is it justice? Anna asked. Is it a consequence? That morning Samuel was playing with a ball in the backyard. Stephen and Anna watched him from the window. He doesn't know yet, does he? No, Anna said. Why? Because Leonardo wants to see him. Anna turned immediately. What? He asked to speak with you and Samuel. No, that's not going to happen. He's going to die. He'll do it in a cell. Alone and abandoned. Maybe you should look him in the eye one last time. Close that circle. Not for him, for you. Anna clenched her teeth. What if he convinces me? What if he manipulates me again? You're not the same anymore. And he no longer has power, he's defeated. Anna walked to her room, closed the door, sat in front of the mirror, and remembered the first kiss, the first time he told her he loved her, the way he made her feel unique, special, invincible. Then she remembered the screams, the blows, the betrayals, the lies, the abandonment in the cemetery. She took a deep breath. She wasn't a weak woman, she was a survivor. And if the past wanted to see her face to face, she wasn't going to look away. All right, she said, leaving the room. I'll go see him. But not Samuel. Stephen nodded, didn't insist, and in his eyes, for the first time, there was respect. Anna was no longer Leonardo's wife or the victim. She was a woman who was beginning to recover what had been stolen from her. Her name, her strength, her truth, and her destiny. Anna held the steering wheel with firm hands, but her heart was beating like a war drum in her chest. Samuel was asleep in the back seat with a blanket up to his chin and a stuffed animal he had rescued from their days in the old house. Stephen didn't travel with them. She insisted on going alone. She needed to be in control this time. She was no longer the woman dragged by the winds of others. She was the one driving. Literally. The road to the maximum security prison was long and rough, passing through dry fields, ghost towns, and gas stations that smelled of hopelessness. In the glove compartment, an envelope with the documents that Marina, the lawyer, asked her to bring. And also, kept like a symbolic shield, an old handkerchief of her father's. The same one with which he once dried her tears when she thought she had failed as a mother. The prison rose like a concrete fortress, fenced with barbed wire and guarded by faceless men behind black sunglasses. Anna got out of the car, took Samuel's hand, and headed for the visitation module. She didn't know if she was ready. She didn't know if there was such a thing as being ready to face the man who stole her life, her dignity, and her son's most fragile years. An officer checked the papers, gave a brief nod, and led them down a narrow corridor, with cameras in every corner and doors that opened with metallic sounds. The atmosphere smelled of sweat, disinfectant, and regret. As they passed, some inmates looked through the bars, others lowered their heads, but none recognized her. To them, she was just another woman who came to visit a corpse with an expiration date. The visitation room was empty, just a metal table, 2 chairs, a camera in the corner, and a light bulb that flickered intermittently. The officer told her to wait. Anna sat Samuel down next to her, stroked his head. No matter what happens, you don't have to say anything. Just observe. Okay. Samuel nodded without understanding too much. At his young age, prison was just a concept. He didn't know what it implied. He couldn't fully comprehend the rottenness that was hidden behind those walls. The door opened and then she saw him. Leonardo entered, escorted by 2 guards. He was unrecognizable. Bald, pale, his eyes sunken in their sockets, his skin stained by the wear and tear of the disease. He walked with difficulty, as if every step hurt him. He was wearing a light gray uniform that hung off his body as if it were too big. When he saw her, he stopped. Anna didn't get up, she didn't move a muscle, she just looked at him. Leonardo trembled. The tears escaped before he could speak. He approached like a beggar and knelt in front of her, with his head bowed and his hands clasped as if praying. "Forgive me," he murmured brokenly. "For everything, for what I did to you, for what I was, for what I allowed." Anna felt a knot in her throat. Her first impulse was to spit in his face, the second to hug him. But she chose the hardest thing, to remain silent, to let the weight of his actions speak louder than his words. Leonardo looked up, saw Samuel. The boy looked at him with big eyes, with a mixture of fear, surprise, and that brutal innocence that children still retain, even after pain. "Samuel, my son, I don't even deserve for you to look at me." The boy didn't respond, he stayed still, clutching the stuffed animal in his fingers. "I destroyed everything," Leonardo continued. "The house, my love for you. I became what I swore I would never be. I failed you as a man, Anna, as a husband, as a father. And now it's too late." Anna swallowed. Her eyes filled with tears, but she didn't cry. "Not yet." Why did you do what you did? Why did you use me? Leonardo dragged himself to sit at the table. He was breathing with difficulty. The cancer had eaten away at his lungs, liver, and part of his pancreas. Every movement cost him a lifetime because I believed I was smarter, stronger, because I thought power would protect me. Using you was easy. You trusted me, and I no longer trusted anyone. I let myself be blinded by money, by prestige, by fear. I betrayed those who helped me. I sold information. I hid evidence until I couldn't even look in the mirror anymore. You hid, Anna said in a hard voice. You left me in the cemetery in the rain with my father's body freshly buried. You hit your wife and ran away like a coward. Leonardo lowered his gaze. I remember it every day. I dream about it every night, and that's why I don't want to leave without cleaning up some of this mess I left behind. He took an envelope out of his pocket, slid it across the table. The guards tensed but didn't intervene. It's a letter for you. I confess everything. Signed, detailed, naming every one of those who were involved. It's authenticated. You can use it. The prosecutor already has it, but you should have a copy too. Anna didn't touch the envelope, she just looked at it. And what do you expect? For me to forgive you? For me to hug you? I don't expect anything, Leonardo whispered. I just wanted to see you, to see that you're alive, that you're not broken like me. Samuel suddenly got up, walked slowly to his father. Anna wanted to stop him, but she didn't. The boy bent down, put a hand on Leonardo's shoulder, and hugged him. A small gesture, without words, without fully understanding the horror, but he did it. Leonardo broke down in tears. He cried like a child, like a defeated man, like a human being finally confronted with the consequences. Anna turned her face, she couldn't stand it anymore. After a few seconds, Samuel returned to his chair. Leonardo wiped his face with his sleeve. Thank you, he said barely. Anna got up, took her son's hand. I don't hate you, she said before leaving. But I don't forgive you either. Not yet. Maybe someday when I can live without remembering everything you did to me. When Samuel no longer asks me why I cried at night. When my body stops trembling when I hear your name. Leonardo nodded. I understand. I don't know if God punished me or saved me by giving me another chance, but I know the price was high and I'm paying it. The guards took him by the arms. He didn't resist. As they led him out of the room, he looked at Anna again. Thank you for coming. The door closed. The silence returned. Anna looked at the envelope on the table, took it, and left with her head held high. In the car, Samuel was drawing faces on the foggy window. Daddy, he's going to die. Anna didn't answer right away. She started the car. The engine roared as if waking up from a long sleep. Yes, son. He's going to die and we're going to keep living. The drive back was different, not because of the scenery, but because Anna felt she had crossed an invisible border. She was no longer on the edge of the abyss. Now she was walking with firm feet. She was no longer the shattered woman who asked for help with a broken voice. She was the mother who had faced hell and came out of it with her son's hand in hers. And that in itself was a miracle. The car moved smoothly along the highway, but the interior of the vehicle had a different silence from the way there. Anna drove with a serene face, without the knot in her throat that had accompanied her for weeks. Her gaze was fixed, clear, and although she didn't say it out loud, she felt that the darkest cycle of her life was closing. Not with a slam, but with the slow and silent creak of a rusty door that was finally giving up its resistance. Samuel slept with his head resting on the window, his stuffed animal under his arm, and his cheeks calm. There was no more fever. There was no more fear on his face, just that deep sleep that children have when they feel they are safe. And Anna, looking at him in the rearview mirror, knew she had done the right thing. Upon returning home, Stephen was waiting for her on the porch. He had a book in his hands and a half-empty glass of wine. He didn't ask questions, he didn't offer hugs, he just looked at her the way you look at someone who has just returned from war. Everything okay? Anna nodded, sat down next to him, and looked at the sky. He died inside before the cancer killed him. He looked me in the eye, and for the first time I understood that he no longer had power over me. Stephen put the book on the table. That's the only real victory. In the following weeks, Anna didn't rest. She couldn't. She had a mission. With the confession letter signed by Leonardo and the legal support of Marina, she began the process of recovering the properties that were in her name. Not all of them could be rescued. Some had been resold in shady operations, others seized by the state. But at least 3 assets of significant value were legally returned to her control. Among them, an apartment in the city, a piece of land on the outskirts of town, and most shocking of all, an abandoned office building that Leonardo used to hide financial operations. Anna visited it with Marina. The place smelled of damp and neglect. On the walls were remnants of papers stuck on, dusty desks, a broken coffee maker. Everything was ruins, but she didn't see it that way. She saw it as a refuge, a space to rebuild. It goes here, Anna said, her eyes shining. Everything is going to start here. With part of the money obtained from the sale of the land, she hired a crew of workers. She renovated the building, set up rooms, painted murals. Each wall had a phrase written by hand, words from women who had survived, phrases of resistance, of faith. She named the project Amaranth Refuge, a place for abused women, single mothers, and anyone who felt their voice had been silenced. Stephen was her first investor. He didn't ask for explanations, he just signed the check and handed her the keys to his old truck. Make it worthwhile, he told her. Anna worked day and night. She surrounded herself with psychologists, social workers, volunteers. There were women who arrived with bruised faces, others with children in their arms, with bruises on their souls. Some came escaping from relationships that had left them broken, but they all had something in common. They didn't know they deserved more. Anna received them with a hot coffee and a story. Hers. She didn't seek compassion, she didn't speak from victimhood. She told the facts as if reading an old letter. Every word had a weight, every silence a scar. And in the end she always said the same thing. Nobody saves you. You save yourself, but you don't have to do it alone. Samuel, meanwhile, was transforming. His body was stronger, his voice firmer. He went to school, he drew without stopping. He used to draw suns, big houses, and many women with capes like superheroes. This is you, he would tell his mother. And this is the house where you save sad moms. Anna would smile, but inside she cried with pride. The Amaranth Refuge became known. First in the town, then in the region. The media began to seek her out. They wanted interviews. Anna only accepted those with a clear intention. To educate, to prevent, to bring to light what so many preferred to hide under the rug of custom. In one of those talks, organized by a local university, a student asked her, "And did you ever manage to forgive him?" Anna was silent, she thought, looked at the auditorium full of young people and said, "Not entirely, but I don't carry it anymore. I don't have it inside me anymore, and that is freedom." That night Stephen was waiting for her at home. He had an envelope on the table, one more. Anna was already used to him, keeping his truths on paper. What is this? An outstanding debt. She opened it. It was a birth certificate, but not hers or Samuel's, it was Leonardo's. And in the lower margin, in handwritten script, a name she didn't expect appeared. Stephen Vance. You were his godfather. Stephen nodded. His mother asked me to take care of him if anything happened to her. I stayed away for years. I didn't want to get stained by his decisions, but when I found out what he had done to you, I felt that the only way to repair something was to help you. You who were not to blame for anything, who were the one who lost the most, who despite everything are still standing. Anna said nothing, she just looked at him with a new respect. Stephen wasn't just a witness, he had been part of the story from the beginning. Hidden, yes, but present. Days later, the news arrived. Leonardo had died. It was in the early morning. Alone in the prison infirmary. No family claimed him. Nobody sent flowers. Nobody asked for him. Marina was the only one who notified Anna. The body was sent to a mass grave unless someone took charge. Anna didn't attend the burial. She didn't need to, but Samuel did want to go. I want to leave him something, he said. Anna took him not to the prison, but to the municipal cemetery where his remains had been deposited. It was a tomb without a name, without a headstone, just a wooden cross with numbers. Samuel went down with a white flower he had cut from the garden of the refuge. He placed it carefully, then knelt. Anna watched him from a distance. She didn't hear what he was saying, but she saw him move his lips. Then he got up and walked towards her. That's it. I told him I forgave him. Anna felt a tremor. She hugged him. And that hug was not just from a mother to a son. It was from a generation that decides not to repeat what it lived. From a child who despite everything chooses forgiveness as an act of bravery. That night in her room, Anna lit a candle, opened a new notebook. On the first page she wrote, "It's not about forgetting, it's about building, about using every wound as a foundation and turning the ashes of the past into the pillars of a future we deserve." She closed the notebook, blew out the candle, and for the first time in a long time, she slept without fear. The next morning, the light that entered through the window was not one that hurt. It was one of those that caress, as if the sun also knew when to stop being a punishment and start being a promise. Anna stretched her arms and took a deep breath. There were no shocks, no urgencies, no shadows lurking behind the door. Just peace. Samuel was already awake. He was playing in the living room with wooden blocks, humming an invented melody. He was wearing a t-shirt with a word written on it by himself. Brave. Anna watched him from the doorway without interrupting. He was a little miracle walking, a heart that had resisted more than many adults could bear. That same morning she received a call. It was the publisher. Her book, titled Things the Mud Can't Bury, was ready to be printed. The pre-sales had exceeded expectations. Her story, told with the raw honesty of someone who doesn't seek applause but truth, was touching thousands. Each chapter was an open wound, but also a door, and many women were crossing it. The book not only talked about Leonardo, it talked about the silence of neighbors, the fear of reporting, the families who prefer to sweep violence under the rug of appearances, the system that punishes victims more than aggressors. There were chapters that the publisher wanted to soften. Anna refused. "It's not about revenge," she said at the meeting. "It's about memory, and memory hurts. If it doesn't hurt, it's fiction." They began to invite her to conferences, forums, television shows. The questions were always similar. How did you realize you were being manipulated? Why did you decide not to hate him until the end? What would you tell a woman who is living what you lived? Anna answered without frills. Nobody hits you on the first day. First he takes away your voice, then your dignity. Then he convinces you that without him you are nothing. And that's when the worst begins, when you believe it. And although she spoke with the firmness of someone who has walked through hell with her eyes open, she didn't do it with anger. She did it with the clarity of someone who has forgiven, not because the other deserves it, but because she no longer wants to keep carrying their poison. Women sought her out, sent her letters. They cried at her talks. Sometimes they would tell her their stories in whispers, sometimes they would just take her hand. Anna understood that what she had lived was not a personal tragedy, it was a mirror. And that mirror, as raw as it was, could also reflect hope. Samuel was growing up. His health was improving every day, he liked drawing, music, and had a curious fondness for plants. In the refuge's garden, he had planted a corner of flowers himself that he tended with devotion. Anna called it the altar of the possible. Stephen was still present, increasingly quiet, more tired, but with that look that only those who have sinned and now allow themselves to be redeemed without announcing it have. One night, sitting next to Anna on the rooftop of the building he himself helped build, he said something she would never forget. "Do you know that I loved Leonardo? He was like a son to me, but I also know that I protected his shadow for too long. Helping you was my way of asking life for forgiveness." Anna didn't answer, she hugged him. Not as you hug a savior, but as you hug an old tree that stood its ground against the storm. The months passed with a new calm. The Amaranth Refuge grew. Women from other towns began to arrive. Some stayed. Others returned to their lives with tools they didn't have before. A young pregnant woman, raped by her own brother, found her first safe place there. Another woman, expelled by her religious community for divorcing her husband without permission, found for the first time a family that didn't judge her. Each story was a tattoo on Anna's memory, and although the pain was a constant guest, it no longer had control of the house. One spring morning, Anna decided to go back to the place where it all began, to the cemetery. Not for Leonardo. That tomb no longer needed visits. She went to see her father, to that piece of land where she still believed he was listening. She walked with Samuel among the paths of the cemetery, now adorned with wild flowers. The boy ran ahead, dodging gravestones as if they were stones in a stream. He laughed, and that sound was the strongest proof that life had won. Her father's grave was clean. Anna left a bouquet of white lilies, sat on the ground, and closed her eyes. "Dad, I know you don't need me to come and tell you anything. You were always there, even when I couldn't feel you. But there's something I want to tell you. The past doesn't hurt me like it used to. I'm no longer afraid. I no longer carry his name or his shadow. I freed myself, Dad. It wasn't fast. It wasn't easy, but I did it. Samuel is okay. I take care of him like you took care of me. I teach him not to be silent, to respect, to say no. I talk to him about you. I tell him how you taught me to resist without turning my heart to stone. And today I came to say goodbye." Samuel approached with a flower in his hand. He placed it next to his mother's bouquet. "Who were you talking to, Mommy?" "To my dad." "And does he listen?" Anna smiled. "Always." Samuel took her hand. "Can I run a little more? But stay close." The boy ran off among the flowers, laughing as if the word fear didn't exist in his vocabulary. Anna watched him with teary eyes because that field, which was once the scene of her greatest humiliation, was now a witness to her rebirth. Because the woman who had been beaten, dragged, ignored, used, betrayed no longer existed. She had died in that cemetery, and in her place another was born, one who was not afraid to speak, one who did not ask for permission to exist, one who had turned ruins into foundations. The sunlight fell on her like a silent blessing. And then, in her mind, Anna said something she didn't even need to say out loud. Sometimes God doesn't take away the pain, but transforms it into purpose. And that purpose was what kept me alive, because love is also rebuilt from the rubble. What did you think of this story? There are many people who, like Anna, are living silent battles every day. Our hope is that her voice has also resonated within you. If this story touched your heart, share it. Make more people feel accompanied. Be a part of the change. Tell us in the comments what you would have done in her place. What city are you watching us from? Reading you makes us feel closer to you. And if you haven't already, subscribe and hit the bell. Every gesture you make is a sign that these stories must continue to be told. Don't go yet. Our next moving story is already appearing on your screen. Click on any of them and continue exploring this universe of real, moving, and necessary stories. Thank you for being here. Thank you for feeling with us. We send you a big hug wherever you are. See you in the next one.